We are all familiar with the racial stereotypes within Hollywood movies. At some points, it's almost inevitable to notice them. While many films embody these various stereotypes, there are other films that try to challenge them. An example of this kind of film would be the 2006 Academy Award-winning movie Crash. However, despite its large acclaim, many scholars found issues with how the film's so-called challenged racial stereotypes present in the film. Research from scholarly journals can help explain the social implications of how the film failed to be realistic about racism in a postmodern, post-civil rights society in America. The film Crash from 2005 is about 8 racially diverse individuals whose experiences become intertwined with one another, testing their limits regarding racism within American society. The events that bring them together are at times relieving, heart-wrenching, or tragic, which allows the characters to show their true feelings toward people of other races. The film is ultimately a tale of unlikely coincidences happening within a bundle of realistic experiences. In his journal article called Crash and the Relevance of an Anti-Racism Analytical Lens from 2007, researcher George Safadeh makes 2 arguments about the film. First, he argues that Crash engages in the reproduction of racist and oppressive stereotypes, and second, Crash fails to engage in issues of white accountability, complicity, and responsibility. By analyzing examples of race relations within the film, along with supplementary research on Crash, these 2 arguments can be extended and connected to ideas found in Holtzman and Sharp. These connections will further prove that Crash is barely the pedagogical tool that many claim it is, but it is rather a film that reinforces negative stereotypes about different races within the United States. When Crash was released in May of 2005, it was a film that promised to keep it real. Director Paul Haggis aimed to represent race relations in Los Angeles in a realistic yet educational way. However, despite winning 3 Academy Awards in 2006, including Best Picture, there were mixed responses to the film. Researcher Christine Ferris adds on to Safadeh's argument that the movie engages in the reproduction of racist and oppressive stereotypes by mentioning that the movie's method of keeping it real actually relied on the very racial stereotypes that the film was trying to deconstruct. Instead of putting colored characters in original, colorblind situations, these characters acted out the stereotypes we are used to seeing. One specific minority that was surely underrepresented throughout the film were Asians. Ferris mentions how the only Asian characters in the film, people from Thailand and Cambodia who had been trafficked for sweatshop labor, have little to no dialogue. Unlike the other characters of color in the film, Ferris mentions how the Asians' characters don't get to show their good side. They are barely seen within the film, other than when black young adult Anthony lets them free into Chinatown, assuming that's where they belonged. Holtzman and Sharp's interpretations of Asians within the film Crash is similar, noting that the Asians' exaggerated accents had a throwback to the cheap comic mispronunciation of words. All 3 texts argue that the film did not progress racial stereotypes, but rather solidified them in their place within American society. In addition to these unoriginal stereotypes, Ferris argues that Crash's unintended main lesson was that everybody has a reason for their racist acts, and they deserve to be forgiven. This is extremely evident in the encounters between white officer John Ryan and his interaction with black couple Cameron and Christine Thayer. After pulling the couple over for engaging in oral sex while driving, Ryan does an unnecessary weapon search of Christine, ultimately sexually assaulting her while Cameron sits there helpless. Shortly later on in the film, it is shown that Officer Ryan is frustrated because his father, who is suffering from possible urinary tract infections, is denied help again and again by their insurance. When Ryan and viewers find out that the lady refusing help for the white old man is actually a black woman, the movie seems to almost justify Ryan's earlier actions against the black couple. It's instances like these within the film that reproduce racist and oppressive stereotypes while also hinting to viewers that it's okay to be racist sometimes as long as there is a good reason and that the character redeemed themselves later on. Safadeh's second argument is that the film fails to engage in issues of white accountability, complicity, and responsibility. A journal article by Joyce Middleton quotes research that says its simplistic message of tolerance directs attention away from a white supremacist system and undermines white accountability for the maintenance of that system. This excerpt from Middleton compares beliefs before seeing Crash to new thinking after seeing the film. These are direct examples of what the film is teaching viewers about racism. A direct example that comes from the film is the encounter between black young adults Anthony and Peter and the white couple of Rick and Jean Cabot. After the two black men carjack the couple, it scares Jean into being questionable of all other races than white. Soon after the carjacking, Jean wants the locks on their house changed. However, when she sees Latino male Daniel changing them, she loudly demands that Rick has someone new change the locks again in the morning, claiming the man would sell their house keys to his gang-banging friends. Jean does not go on to have some sort of racial revelation. She spends the entirety of the movie being scared of non-whites. Like Middleton argues, this is teaching viewers that racism is due to personal reasons, possibly even justified reasons. Keeping this in mind, this relates back to Holtzman and Sharp, who say, the more we are socialized to fear people who are different from us, the more it becomes acceptable to see them as other. This gives us insight as to why Jean, and many other people in real life, begin to see people of other races as subordinate to whites. Although this film honestly tried to challenge racial stereotypes and be realistic with its race representation, the movie Crash ultimately failed at doing so. Although it is a critically acclaimed film that may have some pedagogical intentions, scholarly research has shown us that the film is barely a step away from the average Hollywood film engaging with race relations. Paul Haggis had good intentions when directing this film, but sadly, it did not represent race in a realistic, anti-racist light.